Hi friends, welcome to section 6 behavioral design pattern. We have covered 5 different design patterns which comes under behavioral design pattern. In this section we'll cover the remaining, which are observer design pattern, strategy design pattern, state design pattern, template method design pattern, visitor design pattern, and memento design pattern. Let's start by understanding observer design pattern. We will cover what is observer design pattern, real life example, code walkthrough, when to use observer design pattern with quick summary. What is observer design pattern? The observer pattern is a behavioral design pattern in which an object called as subject maintains a list of its dependents called as observers and notify them automatically of any state change or updates. Not so easy. So let's understand this with diagram. So there is an observer class, and what it does, it observes a subject for any changes or updates in the subject. So observer registers itself to the subject, and whenever there is a change in the subject, it notifies the observer here. Let's understand this with a real life example. When I was a kid, my uncle keeps an eye all day long on the TV to track whatever shares he has purchased, or he was interested in the price of those shares. Instead of playing with me, they were doing like monitoring all day long. So as a kid, I decided that when I'll grow up, I'll make some software which will help the share traders and my uncle to get the notification of only those shares which he is interested in, so that he does not have to all day long keep an eye watching at the TV, but he will play with me and then he'll get the update of whatever he is interested in. Isn't it cool? And I made that project. Let's look at the project. Share trading platform designed using observer design pattern. Notification service can be turned on and off for multiple company shares. So once you run that, it asks you that do you want to observe share price and get notification updates of Apple? I say 1 as yes. Then it asks same question for Google shares. I say 1 means yes. So what it's doing is whenever there is a change in the price, it is letting us know how much was the change for whatever the share which we were observing. So this platform is really cool. You don't have to pull to the subject, like keep watching or keep calling that object, hey, did you change? No, you just relax, calm down, and then that subject will update you whenever there's a change. Let's understand this with the diagram. So here is our subject, which is the share price observable, which is interface. Now it has few methods for adding the observer. So there would be several share traders, like the share traders classes. And what they do is they'll call you to add observer method, wherein the subject keeps a list and it will add only those observers which are interested in watching that particular share. Now here we have concrete sub implementation or subclasses, which is Apple share and Google share. So indirectly you can assume that Asim wants to watch Apple and then Karthik wants to watch Google, and Donald Trump wants to watch Microsoft, let's say. So those kind of traders will be added in the list, and whenever the subject changes, it will call the notify observers method, and then it will notify all these share trader which are observers. Let's understand with the sequence diagram. So we have traders here. What traders are doing is they are adding themselves to the share or the subject which they want to watch. And whenever due to some external factors there is an impact on share price or share price changes, this share will notify the traders. So it's simplified, no? Let's take a deep dive in the code. So what we have here is observable interface, and then its implementation. So what is observable? Observable, what it does is it is adding the observers, removing and notifying the observers. and the implementation is Apple. So Apple share, what it does is it has a list of the share traders who are interested in watching this particular share. So it will add them in the list, and of course they can always remove themselves by using this method. And whenever there is an update, the notify observer will be called or invoked, and then over the list of the share traders, it will call the notify current price method, which is again the contract observer interface. So observer interface notifies this method, which is supposed to get called whenever there is an update on the price. So typically these are the two interfaces which we need to come up for implementing the observer design pattern. Now let's run this and see it in action. So what we are doing here is, first we are making the instance of our observer, which is the share trader, and then we are creating two subjects, Apple and Google share. Once that is done, then we need to attach the observer or the customer to watch the share of Apple. So one says yes, which means we will add that inside the subject. So it would get added in the list. Then we ask same question for Google, and this time we say, no, we are not interested in Google anymore. Please remove me. I don't want to watch it, something. So then the remove observer method will be invoked on the subject. Now we are simulating. So let's see the simulating. I just did a random program which will have some random value which will set so that it simulates it. So as soon as this gets simulated, see the observe notify, by virtue of the design pattern, it's got invoked directly, and then you see the price change in the Apple. This happens all by itself. So it's really loose coupling. They don't know about each other directly, but still whenever you're just changing the price of the observable, the observer gets the notification, and you see here the print statement now. So let's run through this, and then we see all these print statements which have came up here. So lesson learned is there is no need that I as a share trader keep pulling on the subject after every 5 minutes, like infinite loop, to figure out, hey, did price change, did not. So that's a pull mechanism. Here we have implemented push, which means whenever the subject changes, it would notify to all the people who are watching or observing or interested in. So it gives us a lot of resources which are not getting wasted in the pooling. So performance improvement, first thing. Second is loose coupling, which means the share does not need to know about the person who is a watcher, the client. They are just loosely coupled. There is an interface method. Whosoever implements that interface can add and remove themselves dynamically. So it makes life easier. And now my uncle, if he did a share trading, he can play with me. But now I am big. So anyways, as I have mentioned before, that nowadays languages and frameworks are providing the design patterns out of the box. So here Java Utils also provides you the observer and observable implementations. So you don't have to do much. You have a subject which extends the observable, and whenever there is a update on the subject, it notifies the observer. So what we do here is we create the observer. We can create n number of observers, and then we have to implement the update method on it. So whenever the subject gets changed, this method would be invoked. Now we attach the observer on the subject, and then it's a multi-threaded program. So we'll run the thread. Let me just run this real quick for you. So this is what I am updating the subject with happy. And as soon as I update this, you see that this update will happen automatically on the observer. So observer is notified with happy. Now I can say sad, which I am not though, like I am still happy. But it also gets notified here. So let me run through. Take away that instead of creating our own implementation, which we did in our share brokerage platform, We can use out-of-the-box observer and observable from java.util APIs. Fortunately, Java 9 has deprecated this, but they have given something advanced like in the similar pattern but with different interfaces. So go and check it out using this link mentioned in the code. When to use observer design pattern? It is suitable for any scenario that requires push-based notification. It is ideal to use observer pattern in event-driven applications. Quick summary. The object which is being watched is called as the subject. The objects which are watching the state changed are called as observers or listeners. Observer pattern works like the subscription model to get updates. Like you subscribe a magazine and then they keep sending you until you subscribe and pay them. But the moment you stop, you don't get the magazine. So in this case, you don't get the notifications in observer pattern.